The clock ticked. 3 a.m. The city slept, not Max. He gripped the steering wheel of his ambulance, eyes glued to the empty road. Streetlights flickered, casting long, dancing shadows. A dog barked in the distance, the sound lonely and out of place. Max shivered, pulling his jacket tighter. Just another night shift. Max tapped his fingers on the wheel, humming along to the radio static. He always felt uneasy during the graveyard shift. The quiet was unnerving, amplifying every creak and groan of the ambulance. He longed for the comforting sounds of the city that came with daybreak. Tonight the silence felt heavier, more oppressive. The further Max drove, the denser the darkness became. Trees lined the road, their branches reaching out like skeletal fingers. The headlights barely cut through the thick fog that had rolled in, shrouding everything in an eerie white blanket. Max gripped the steering wheel, his knuckles white. He could have sworn he saw a figure dart between the trees. He shook his head, trying to rationalize. It was just the fog playing tricks on him. His heart pounded in his chest, a drumbeat against the silence of the night. The air inside the ambulance seemed to grow colder, a damp chill seeping in from the fog. He rolled up his window, desperate to shut out the growing sense of dread that threatened to engulf him. The rusted gates of Oakwood Cemetery loomed ahead. Max drove through the entrance, the headlights illuminating rows of crooked headstones, their shadows stretching out like beckoning arms. The dispatcher's words echoed in his mind, reports of a woman screaming. But an unnatural silence hung in the air, broken only by the sound of his own breath. Where was everyone? He scanned the cemetery, his pulse quickening. His eyes landed on a sight that made his blood run cold. In front of the oldest, most imposing mausoleum stood a solitary figure, a woman. Her back was to him, but he could make out her long dark hair cascading down her back. She was crying, her shoulders shaking with sobs. This had to be the woman from the call. Max approached cautiously, his hand hovering over the siren. "Hello?" he called out, his voice trembling slightly in the stillness. The woman didn't react. He took another step, his unease growing. "Ma'am, are you all right?" Silence. He was now only a few feet away. He reached out a hand to touch her shoulder, and then she was gone. He spun around, searching frantically for any sign of her. The cemetery was empty, deserted. The fog seemed to press in closer, suffocating him. A cold wind whipped around him, and Max could have sworn he heard a faint whisper, a sinister chuckle that seemed to come from the very depths of the cemetery. He didn't wait to investigate. Turning on his heels, he ran back to his ambulance, fleeing into the night, the chilling laughter echoing in his ears. He never looked back.